We're seeing very similar themes from all of our counterparties, and I'll pick on the accounting space. So there's very few people that want to get their CPA and do tax anymore. It's miserable. They're like, we work miserable hours to become partner, to be even more miserable, to make good money, to be more miserable. And the law space is very similar, right? Like put in your dues, work really hard, get a bunch of billable hours, and then you become partner to get more billable hours to share a piece in the pie. What have you seen as we have generational shifts? What are the younger folks focusing on, and how are you recruiting, or how are you going to recruit when I think there's less folks wanting to come into our businesses?
So what I've noticed is the expectation for higher salaries, but with a combined expectation that they're going to work less and work the majority at home. And I think some at home work is fine, but I think there is something to be said about coming to the office so we can all talk about different cases, especially with attorneys where we all have to work together. If we're going to litigate a case, we all need to be on the same page. It's really good to do that while we're sitting in the office. I want to see what you're working on so I can, add my work to it. So maybe that's my just generation is I'm just used to going to an office and working and collaborating in the office.
Mm-hmm. Welcome to the Exceptional Companies Podcast, a podcast for purpose-led entrepreneurs looking to master the art of buying, selling, or optimizing small businesses. Your host, Chris Seegers, founder of Exceptional Companies and author of Selling Main Street, has over a decade of experience starting, buying, and leading successful businesses. He's here to guide you through the complex world of business transactions and growth. Each week, we dive deep with actionable insights, expert interviews, and real-world strategies to activate and equip you to live exceptionally and build exceptional businesses. Now, let's dive into today's episode. Here's your host, Chris Seegers.
Welcome to the Exceptional Companies Podcast, hosted by yours truly, Chris Seegers, where we explore how to buy, sell, and expand or optimize your business. I am joined by a really interesting, incredible guest today, David Ganderton, who is the owner of and founder of Ganderton Law. And they do things really differently, which is the reason I wanted to have David on. They put the personal back in personal injury law, which is very different from all the billboards that you see of the folks that are either hammers or knives or hatchets or things of that nature. But David, man, so excited to have you. It's been fun getting to know you as a friend and colleague. Welcome to the show.
Thank you so much. Thanks for having me, Chris. I'm happy to be here, excited to be here, excited to talk about business.
For sure. And really, man, what connected me with you is when we first had a conversation, I realized you were totally different. Your approach to client relationship is very unique to your industry, which is how we are. We want to put the client streams and goals at the forefront. We want to make sure that we have a high touch. But tell us about your story, man, because you do your profession differently. So tell our audience about your story, how you got there, and how you really said, hey, we want to be personal and we don't want to be focused on the transaction. Even though we're excellent at the transaction, we want to do it different.
Yeah. Whew, my story, man. So my legal story is I graduated law school in 2007, started off as a prosecutor, did that in Florida for a couple years, lateraled into the DA's office in Arapahoe County, Colorado, worked there for another couple years, and left the DA's office, left being a prosecutor to go work on the civil side of things. So going from criminal to civil, and I worked at a large commercial litigation firm, offices nationwide, large, big bureaucratic firm. And that was awful. I sat behind a desk. I just did basically grunt work, research, writing. Didn't really get the courtroom experience that I had as a DA. And so I decided to go into insurance defense. I left the corporate litigation world. I went to insurance defense where I defended people who had been in car accidents. I defended a lot of insurance companies in bad faith litigation. And that got me more involved in the cases, in court more, because they were more often litigated than a corporate transaction. And so that was fine for a couple years, but while I was doing that, number one, I didn't feel good working for the insurance companies because it was, okay, how do we lowball this case? Or what excuse can we find not to pay someone for damages that they clearly had? And I started to feel bad for people. I was like, but they're really hurt. Shouldn't we be paying them because that's what their insurance is for? Or shouldn't we be protecting our clients and paying the people who are hurt because we want to protect our clients and make sure that they don't get sued? So I didn't like working for the insurance companies, but something that really, really stood out to me while I was doing that work was working with the plaintiff's attorneys, which is what I do now. I was working against the large Hammer, whatever you see on TV, the big firms. And as the attorney, I couldn't even get a hold of the other attorneys on the other side at the big firms. I would call them, they'd say, so-and-so is no longer on the case, it's someone else, or he or she's not available, but you can talk to his case manager or someone else. And I was like, I'm trying to settle these cases, I'm trying to give you guys money, how come I can't get a hold of an attorney? And so I started to think, if I'm having such a hard time getting a hold of the attorneys, imagine the adjusters, or more importantly, imagine their clients. Mm-hmm. Are they having personal connection with their clients? And if they're not having personal connections with their clients, then they're not understanding their clients' cases as much as they should. Mm-hmm. And therefore, they're not presenting that to me and getting as good as a result as they should. So I thought I could do it better. And so, 2013 is when I started a personal injury law firm. At that point, I had a law partner at the time. We started off practicing about half and half personal injury, half criminal defense, because we had the DA experience. Did that for about 10 years. My partner and I kind of grew apart on how we wanted to grow the firm. I wanted to grow something larger, but keeping the personal touch. He was at a different age group than I was and wanted to kind of slow down. So about a year and a half ago, I started my law firm, Ganderton Law, and started that in Colorado Springs. And in starting my law firm 12 years ago, we always said that we would keep that personal attention. The more we get to know our clients, the more that we're going to be able to present their case to an adjuster, to a jury. And more importantly, the more we communicate with our clients, the better they're going to feel about us and what we're doing. And they're not going to be lost. They're not going to say, what in the world is going on with my case? What's my attorney doing? Are they doing anything? So we always made sure we had that personal contact. And in starting my firm, Ganderton Law, I kept that. And I made sure that was priority number one. In fact, our slogan is bringing the personal back to personal injury law, because I think that's what it's missing. It becomes a mill with the shops that are on TV. It's just how many clients can you get, and each client becomes another number versus a person. So I want to bring that personal touch back so I know my clients, and that's what we've done. And by providing that exceptional service for the clients, we've been able to get that word of mouth in Colorado Springs, which is like the biggest small town ever. So we've been able to get that word of mouth going here, which has really been a catalyst to growing the firm.
I love that, man.
So that's my story.
And I think that's very similar. When we built our A&D advisory company, Exceptional Business Advisors, it was the same thing. We had bought these businesses and we had this terrible broker experience where a lot of them wouldn't even email you back. And we were well qualified. We'd bought 5 businesses before. Like, we knew the game. We're like, hey, we want to buy this business. We got the capital. We're ready to go. And you just couldn't get someone to answer your responses. If they did, they didn't know what they were talking about. And we just said, hey, let's bring a boutique investment banking experience to small business owners, because those are the people we really care about. And I have a thesis that as AI becomes more prevalent, there's going to be a higher and higher value assigned to customer service. And one of the things, because we've been in a couple networking groups together, and I've been able to hear from some of the folks that have used you personally. One of the things that they mention is they're like, hey, we actually got to talk to David. And he actually picked up the phone and he sat down with us. And that's very similar in how we do business, where they're like, hey, you run the thing, you started the thing, why are you talking to us? I'm like, I have great people and processes, but we need to understand what you're trying to achieve here. And I want to make sure that I know you and that I can help you achieve that. So I've been really impressed with that, man. And I think it's in your space. It's so beautiful to see that. And it's going to help you absolutely crush your opponents, because customer service is what we all do, right? We're all here serving people, well, whether it's white collar, blue collar, manufacturing. So tell us a little bit more about Ganderton and how you're different than other firms, because that's one of them, that you're going to talk to a human being and they're going to help walk you through that.
Yeah, so I think there's a really fine line with personal injury law firms, and you get really most often two things. You get either the solo practitioner who's just running a shop by himself or maybe has one employee and he or she is doing everything. So you get to talk to the partner, right? But they're so overwhelmed with all the other stuff that they might not be doing the best job for you. So you have that, or you have the large firms where you're never going to talk to the attorney. They've built so much staff underneath to talk to the clients, and the attorney then goes on vacation for a couple weeks out of the month. And so there's that fine line on not being either one of those and making sure that you both have the personal communication with your clients. But it has been my goal to build my staff to do all of the rest of the work, which frees me up to then actually have my main jobs are communication with my clients and then taking that communication and negotiating with insurance companies, because that's what I'm good at, and that's what attorneys should do. We're negotiators. We get the best deals for our clients. So we have the staff to do all the drafting letters of representation, ordering medical records, doing all the stuff that staff should do, which frees us up to have that personal communication. But we don't have so much staff that we're just missing, right? So I think there's a good balance there with my firm, and that's what I strive to do, is to have that base covered, have the procedures in place, which frees me up to have amazing communication with my clients. And the more I know about my client's case, the better I'm going to do for them.
So let's dig into that a little bit, because I always talk about people's purpose and why and what's driving you. So as this flywheel starts spinning faster and Ganderton law becomes one of the top 5 in the state, you're going to be making a ton more money. You're going to have the ability to scale, go big. You're going to have a lot of people that are going to say, hey, the right way to do this is to look at everybody as a math equation and say, we have a 75% success with this person, 25 don't talk to those people, do talk to these people. How are you going to protect yourself and your firm as you scale?
So I think it's about training and making sure you're finding the right people. I think hiring employees is an art and one that you have to continue to craft. And I think if you can learn how to hire the right employees, and maybe not even you hire someone you think is good, but then evaluating those employees to make sure that they stay good or they're meeting your expectations on the same thing, communication. So it's making sure you're finding the right employees to then do the same thing or have the same qualities that I would provide my clients. So for example, right now I have one associate that works for me, and he is awesome at communication. And I have made it very, very clear that he needs to be accessible to his clients. He needs to have appropriate communication, just like I would, right? So when the clients hire us and he's working on the case, number one, I'm still available if the client has questions. But number two, he's doing a lot of the work, and they are going to have the same type of communication with an attorney who's working on their case. So I think it's building the right team, hiring the right employees, and making sure they have the same mindset that you do.
I love it, man. That's really good. So as you scale your firm, tell us a few of the challenges that you've experienced, because we've actually looked at buying law firms in Arizona and other spots, because I've always had 2 attorneys on staff for our oil business, and I've just loved the space, and especially on the transactional side, we've done a ton of transactions. But the space is changing. So non-attorneys can own law firms in certain states. Private equity groups are seeing that, hey, this is a really interesting model that we can buy out, and they have done a lot of acquisitions. Tell us some of the issues you see in the industry and just as you scale your business, and opportunities too.
Yeah. So I do see I'm seeing it with larger law firms that are buying the smaller law firms and basically taking over to expand their brand, but keeping all the employees and all that. And I think the problem then becomes, for at least the issue for me, is that then you get billion-dollar law firm or investments going into these firms, which saturates the marketing. So that has been my issue, is I'm like, oh, how am I going to compete with that? It's already hard enough to compete with other personal injury law firms with marketing because they have so much money poured into advertisement, poured into Google, all that stuff. So that's the issue that I see, is it's just going to become harder to compete with the bigger ones. So I have personally taken a different approach to marketing with my firm, and that is being the person who's local, who's going to be the boots on the ground, come into my office and sit down with me. I don't just have a satellite office here. It's my office, and you come sit and meet with me personally. So my approach has been, we will be that local law firm that people will know as the local, small, mid-sized, even if it's large, law firm that's going to sit down with you, going to give you attention, going to call you back, and that's going to beat out any TV commercial any day. But that's where I see the issue is it's going to make an even poorer name for personal injury attorneys, I think, or attorneys in general, when it becomes more of a business and less of a personal service, right? When people become more of a number, and it's, all right, what are the bills? Send the bills to the adjuster. Let's get that, settle it. I'm not going to really negotiate it because we don't have time. Move on to the next one, and you're a conveyor belt. That's going to be the issue when these large conglomerates get these law firms, and they're like, okay, we can make it like a business instead of a personal service. I think that's going to be the issue.
I love it, man. So let's talk a little bit about kind of your growth story, and tell us, I want to tee you up on this a little bit. So tell us a story you want to share about your journey. But one of the ones that I've heard you mention, and it may be dozens, but you've mentioned a couple times, yeah, we've taken clients that have been with other firms, and the firms that maybe it's been 2 or 3 years and they've gotten nothing moving, and they have had zero success with this client. And you guys are able to get a good outcome for that client. Tell us a little bit about that, because I think that's incredible, honestly.
Yeah. The last one we had was just a few months ago, and we had a client who was with one of the big box law firms that you see advertised on TV for almost 3 years, and they got her a $10,000 settlement offer, which she declined. Her bills were probably around $20,000. It's not a huge case, but it's something where she was really affected by this accident. She had to have injections, steroid injections, so there was actual treatment and lost income from work. They got a $10,000 offer. They basically said, if you don't take this, then we're going to have to fire you. And they did. She said no. They fired her. She hired another big box law firm that filed suit on her behalf, but then just kind of let it go through the process without being actively involved in it. So they didn't do the appropriate reach out to opposing counsel to explain, why this case is worth a certain amount. So she ended up disagreeing with that law firm, found our firm, we took it over. I immediately reached out to opposing counsel and said, hey, listen, I'm on this now. This is what's going on with my client. These are what the damages are. Where are you at with your offer, and what's it going to take to get to something to where my client's made whole again? And the adjuster was like, well, or the attorney said, I have to speak with the adjuster, who then was like, well, we need this, that, and the other. And so I said, okay, we can get that. And so we did, and we just took those extra steps to get our client a significant settlement. It was, I think, 6 times what she got offered at the initial firm, and then we settled it. And it was that, not easy, but it just took a little bit of extra work. We just had to call some people and get some emails and find billing and find documents that the other attorneys may not have paid as much attention to. So that's one of the most recent ones and that I bring up, and it's not the craziest award where it's $1 million verdict, but it mattered to our client. And for us to go from 10,000 to 50 or 60, which is going to really not change her life but help her a whole lot more, is a big deal for us, just so we could be there and help.
Yeah, I love it, man. And that's, even in our space, like our ideal client is kind of $500,000 to $5 million EBITDA, but we do a lot of work with smaller business owners. Number one, I just love it. I love the game of just negotiating and understanding their business, but also for somebody to exit, even if it's a, less than 7-figure exit, that means more to them than some of the people that have had massive success in business. And so for me, I love negotiating on behalf of people that are like, hey, it's a $700,000 exit, and that is going to change their life. That's going to allow them to retire the way they want to. That's going to allow them to bless their kids and grandkids. And so I think when you have that relational as opposed to transactional mindset, you go into all those battles the same. Like, hey, we're here to serve our client, make sure they get the outcome they want. I want to kind of circle back to a question I had about headwinds, because in the white collar service space, we're seeing very similar themes from all of our counterparties, and I'll pick on the accounting space. So there's very few people that want to get their CPA and do tax anymore. It's miserable. They're like, we work miserable hours to become partner, to be even more miserable, to make good money, to be more miserable. And the law space is very similar, right? Like, put in your dues, work really hard, get a bunch of billable hours, and then you become partner to get more billable hours to share a piece in the pie. What have you seen as we have generational shifts? What are the younger folks focusing on, and how are you recruiting, or how are you going to recruit when I think there's less folks wanting to come into our businesses?
So what I've noticed is the expectation for higher salaries, but with a combined expectation that they're going to work less and work the majority at home. And I think some at home work is fine, but I think there is something to be said about coming to the office so we can all talk about different cases, especially with attorneys, where we all have to work together. If we're going to litigate a case, we all need to be on the same page. It's really good to do that while we're sitting in the office. I want to see what you're working on so I can, add my work to it. So maybe that's my just generation is I'm just used to going to an office and working and collaborating in the office. Mm-hmm. So I see a lot of, hey, no, I just want to work remotely 100%. And then the expectation for higher salary, less work, which is understandable. I think I'd like to do less work and make more money too, but it's just not reasonable in this field. It's just not. And I think that, it's just maybe a generational thing, or maybe it's just I've been talking to the wrong potential employees. Fortunately, I found some really good ones that have had other experiences at other firms or working for the government, where they were worked even more hourly than at my firm. And I was able to give them, a little bit of breath of fresh air, where we have a really cool atmosphere here where we kind of hang out and do work. You don't have to wear a suit every day. If you need to take off early because your kid's got to play or something like that, go for it. I love that stuff. But at the same time, when we are here, we work hard. So it's been interesting to see the dynamic with newer employees.
Yeah, it's interesting because we've said, culture magnetizes or polarizes people away from you. And our culture, one of our core values is grit. And everybody thinks they have grit. In fact, every single person that I interview, I'm like, okay, here's one of our core values. Give me a story. And I can tell just from that story whether they're going to be a fit at our company or not, because most of the stories of grit are like, yeah, I had to get up and, go to my job every day and also do this. And I'm like, that's just life. Like, that's just life. That's not being extra gritty. But then you have some people that are like, my mom had cancer and I was taking care of her, plus working 2 jobs, plus this, plus raising my kids. And I'm like, that's grit. You're not willing to give up on your goals no matter what happens, because a lot of bad stuff happens in life. That's grit, is saying no matter what, I'm going to get what I want out of life. And all the bad stuff is going to happen to all of us at some point in time, health issues and financial issues, and we're going to keep going. But I think people's perspective of what grit truly is very low. And then when I give them some examples, they're like, oh yeah, I've never done that. I wouldn't want to do that. And I'm like, okay, like, that's great, but you're not going to be a fit for our culture and our company. And that's okay. Like, there may be a culture that's a little bit, more aligned with how you're thinking about it. So as you think about young attorneys or young entrepreneurs trying to build something great, and we've had just 3 or 4 years of chaos, man. We've had tariffs, we've had elections, we've had government shutdowns, we've had international stuff. A question that we love to ask our potential clients is, do you know what your business is worth? And if you sold your business today, would it fulfill your personal and financial goals? If you're a successful business owner, but you don't know when or how to sell your business, and if you've ever wondered what each additional day in your business is actually costing you, we'd love to chat. If you're ready to spend more time with your family, your friends, or traveling, come sit down with our team, because when you work with exceptional business advisors, we'll help you build a blueprint to sell your business successfully and help you create, capture, and achieve your dream life. Don't wait for the right time. The time's now. Go ahead and scan the QR code or book a discovery appointment at excoadvisors.com. What advice or wisdom would you give to young entrepreneurs going into 2026, or folks that are like, hey, I do want to do something. I want to own my thing. What's some advice you'd give them from what you've experienced?
Oh man, I think it's do good things for people. I think if you're out there in the community and you're doing good things, whether that's in your job or if it's outside of your job, just volunteering or just sitting, mentoring other people, if you're building your reputation as being a good person, happy to do good things for others, that's going to carry with you no matter where you're going to be employed at, no matter where you're interviewing at. Your reputation is going to carry you. If that employer then reaches out to, previous employers or other references, they're going to have good things to say. So my advice to younger people who want to be attorneys, specifically own their own businesses, is you got to just be a good person and meet people and spend the time and energy. I mean, it's exhausting sometimes to go network and to go have coffees and do all this, but you have to meet people. If you don't know people, you're never going to get a good reputation, and then you're never going to be able to grow a big business unless you have the millions of dollars to throw into advertising and you just create that brand recognition. If you don't have that, then it's all about boots on the ground, meeting people, getting to know people, and doing good things for people.
I love it. So I want to ask a question after this, but one of the, I think, misconceptions that people have about entrepreneurship and owning a business is how quickly it happens. I think a lot of people are like, you start and then in like year 2, you're just making so much money and you've got all your people and your processes, you got it dialed in, and it's like, all right, now it's passive. Tell us a little bit about your experience, because that's never been our experience. And we own 9 businesses. We acquire a business almost every year, every other year. And I think that timeline, Dan Sullivan has a quote that there's no unrealistic goals, only unrealistic timelines. And when he told me that, I was like, I don't really understand that. But the more I get into business, I realized, yeah, we can accomplish anything we want. It may take us 5, 10, 20, 25 years. But talk a little bit about that in your experience as you built your firm.
Oh, yeah. So fortunately, I had the years with my previous firm that I owned. So that showed me basically how long it takes and what the growth is. And I'll say with that firm, and then starting my firm here too, it's years, right? Because especially in the personal injury field, because when you sign up a client, you're not settling it a week later. Mm-hmm. Generally, that client is calling after an accident. There's going to be 6 months at least of treatment, maybe less, maybe more. Then we're going to get the bills and records. You're going to negotiate. It's going to take 6 months to a year to settle that thing. So there's that lag there. If you're starting day one, you can't expect to get a paycheck from a personal injury case for 6 months to a year. So that's the first lag. Then it's okay, but then you have to build the business too, meaning you have to have employees there to help you with these new cases that you're not getting paid on for a while. Mm-hmm. So you have to have reserves to pay your employees, and then once you finally get the settlements or get paid, you can build those reserves back up. So it's going to take a few years until those reserves are built back up, you have the team in place, you have the systems in place, and then finally when those settlements or your income starts to come in, then you're getting paid. Not the business getting paid, you're getting paid. Mm-hmm. And so it's certainly not a quick thing. It's not a, hey, I'm going to open my doors tomorrow and I'll see a paycheck the following week. You have to be prepared for months, years of maybe not even paying yourself.
Yeah, I think that's so good, man. And even we coach a lot of buyers that are buying businesses. And when we talk to them, most of them are like, yeah, year 1, we're going to be making this much money. And I'm like, hey, just so you know, year 1, a lot of stuff's going to break. And even though you're buying momentum and cash flow and clients, and I'm a huge fan of buying businesses because I think you shorten that gap, you're still first 2-3 years, you're probably not going to make that much money. And then you're going to kind of get things under wraps. You're probably going to lose 30 to 40% of your team because they're not a culture fit, because you're changing things and you're bringing in processes. So you've got to be willing to sacrifice. And I would say like 5 to 10 years to be really successful in business. Like you said, you were doing it 10 years before you did Ganderton Law. So it's not like you just said, hey, I'm going to hop in. You said, I'm going to learn for 10 years to have the opportunity to do my own thing. And it's still going to take time to scale. So that's one thing. So we're really talking about bad advice. And I'm not a big social media guy. That's why we do the podcast, but I've really been watching a lot of, Facebook influencers, and I'm seeing a lot of bad counsel. What's some bad advice you've seen recently or just heard along your entrepreneurial journey that you think is false? And really, I asked this question because I want to call out a lot of this, because there's a lot of harm being done to people that are just kind of taking things as fact. And I'm like, hey, you need to dig into this. But what's some bad advice you've heard along your journey?
Specific to opening your own business, I think is like you said, that hey, I'm going to be making tons of money quick and I'm going to have a lot of time quick. I think the advice should be you're going to work harder and longer than you ever did when you were working for someone, and you're not going to get paid as much for a little while. I think that's what the expectation has to be. Now, does it pan out later on? Is it worth it? Is it the first few years of working really, really hard and longer for less money? Is that worth the outcome? And what's going to happen 5-10 years down the road? Absolutely. But I do think there's that time gap where people think they can just either buy or start their own business and it's going to be like that. And it's not. And I think and you hit the nail on the head with replacing team members. I think if you're buying a business, that business hasn't been run the way that you want it to be run, and the people in that business might not be the type of people that fit the culture in the business. So even if you're buying a business, you're still maybe starting at the halfway point versus buying something that is ready to go, because there's going to be a lot of changes. There are going to be systems in place where you look at it and you're saying, why are we paying that much for this system? Mm-hmm. We could cut that in half, but then we're going to have to train on that for a couple months and pull everything over to it. So there's a lot. It's just, I don't think it's as easy as it's put out there. There's going to be a lot of work, a lot of changes. It's very much worth it in the end, but there's a lot of work that goes into it.
Mm-hmm. And I've heard, I can't remember who said it, otherwise I'd give them credit, but somebody that is in the entrepreneurial space said, you get to choose your pain, right? So choose your pain in the front end or in the back end. So if you don't work out, you're going to have bad health, right? So, hey, you don't have to work out. You're not going to choose the pain of working out, but you're going to choose it on the back end. If you choose not to invest wisely and save wisely and do the things on the back end, you're going to work as a greeter at Walmart when you're 80. And I've really been encouraging young people, because I think we have this counterculture of like, oh, just live life and like, YOLO and all this. And I'm like, look, when you're young and you have energy in your health, choose the pain now. Because if you choose the pain now, you're going to get to a point where you're like, sweet, now people aren't controlling me and my time. I have enough capital that I can take care of my retirement needs and bless my family. And now my health is starting to fail, right? And maybe not in a big way, but I can tell you, hitting 40 as opposed to 30, it's not a huge shift, but I definitely am different than I was when I was 20 and 30. And so I can kind of project that and listen to 70-year-olds and 80-year-olds who are like, yeah, like I want to take a 2-hour nap in the middle of the day and that's normal. And I'm like, cool. But I think that concept of you're going to get the pain. Life is going to serve you a whopping serving of pain. You just got to choose. Do you want it now when you've got energy? And if you take a risk and it fails, you've got a lot of time to make up for it. Or do you want to have it towards the end when maybe you didn't have as much margin? I love this conversation, man. So let's wrap a little bit. So number one, like if we had any sort of personal injury issue with my family or my loved ones, I would choose you guys. I've gotten to walk with you and just really see the integrity of you and your team and your company. So I just want to put that out there. But who are some of the folks that would be great clients for you and that should be searching for you? And if social media picks it up, would be a good fit for you and your team?
Yeah, so we're based in Colorado Springs, Colorado, but licensed in Colorado, Wyoming, and Florida. So if there's anybody who's involved in a car accident, that's the majority of our cases, or slip and fall, or anywhere where somebody's injured because somebody else messed up, because somebody else was negligent, that is most likely a personal injury case. And so mostly in Colorado, we take any client who's been injured due to the fault of someone else. So there's not a specific, people ask, is there a power partner for you, or who should we be looking out for? There's not really, it's anybody. Anybody who's been injured because somebody else. And again, the most frequent cases, car accident cases, because they happen all the time. So if somebody's been involved in a car accident and it's someone else's fault and they're injured, they should call us.
I love that, man. So as we wrap, number one, I want you just to tell people where they can find you, because sometimes I'll forget. And then I'm like, oh, shoot, I didn't even mention the website and the email and that sort of thing. But after that, I've got two questions I close with. One is a tool, a book, a podcast, a resource, something that has really given you a lot of joy or has been a game changer for you in the past 6 months. And then the second question that we'll close with is just some parting wisdom that is positive focus. So we've got a lot of negative things coming at us, and I just kind of push them away and say, hey, there's so much opportunity here, but I always like to close with that. But first of all, David, where can people find you?
Yeah. My website is gandertonlaw.com, Ganderton law.com. If they want to email me, they can at david@gandertonlaw.com.
Love it, man. So tell us a resource or something that's been really awesome for you. It could be personal or it could be business.
Ooh, I listen to a lot of podcasts. There's one called PIM, Personal Injury Mastermind, and it's all personal injury attorneys kind of spitballing back and forth on what works for them. So that's obviously industry specific for me. Going back to a book that changed the way I thought, and this might be cliche, but Think and Grow Rich.
That's
love
so
that.
good.
And that, yeah, that'll probably lead me into my next, my advice. And that is, you really need to have a clear goal, a clear understanding of where you want your business to be. So this is something that's changed with my current law firm and what I might not have had 10, 12 years ago with my other law firm. With the other law firm, it was, we're going to open, we're going to do great things for great people, and we're just going to be two guys that are going to do work. But we didn't have a clear goal or a clear vision of what we wanted our law firm to look like. I do now. I know what I want it to look like. I know how I'm going to grow to get there. I know, how many clients I want to have at a time, how many of those clients can be per paralegal, what kind of staff I need. And if you have really clear goals in place, if you have a clear monetary goal in place, then things will shift and you will work towards that and you will change your business in the right way in order to meet those goals. But those goals have to be very specific and they have to be very clear.
I love that, man. Think and Grow Rich I read that every couple of years. And Napoleon Hill has another phenomenal book that almost no one has read, which is called How to Own Your Own Mind. And it actually really expands on Think and Grow Rich and has a lot of additional frameworks for that. But I agree with that. And when we talk to our clients, we always say, you need clarity on your personal goals. Like, what do you want out of life? What are your core values, your wealth goals? Like, how do you want money to serve you? And then your business or career goals. And once you get clarity on that, it's going to change your life. And there's so many folks that I talk to that I ask them that. I'm like, hey, what's your purpose? What are you going after? What's an exceptional life look like for you? And they're like, I don't know, probably more time with my family and have more money. And I'm like, man, write it out. As cliche as it is, we have a tool called the Life Sheet, which is putting that all into a business plan for your life, but also put a vision board together. Go detail. What's the truck you want to drive? What's the office you want to work out? How rich, how much? Because everybody has a different view of what a great life is. Some people are like, hey, I'm happy just, breaking even and spending a ton of time with my family. Great. If that's fully your dream, hey, man, it's not my dream, but I think that's not enough. But if that's your dream and you really have thought through it, great. So let's talk about, as we think about clarity for your future life, what's some advice, some positive advice you could give for somebody young that's like, man, there's just a lot of noise. I just don't know where to go. I'm not sure what to do. I'm stuck. We've talked a lot about, hey, you need to get in the game. You need to be a player, not a fan. You got to get off the sidelines. What's some advice you'd give your 20-year-old David Ganderton self who's out in the world trying to figure it out?
Find your strengths and do what makes you happy. So I found strength in law school. I was like, hey, I can read really fast. I retain really well. And so I was like, law school is a really great next step for me. And then after law school, it was, okay, finding out which career path of law I wanted to do, what I liked to do. I did not like corporate litigation. I don't like drafting contracts. I don't like sitting behind a desk in front of my computer all day long, drafting and writing and researching. So my strengths are more litigation, talking to people, negotiation. So understanding my strengths and understanding what I don't like and what makes me happy, which is talking to people and networking and growing a business at the same time as talking to adjusters and clients. I figured out what made me happy. I figured out what my strengths were, put those two together, and then you can excel.
I love that, man. And I'll add a little bit to that. So find what you're passionate about, what you're good at. And then the third, because I just had a conversation with a young person, is what the market will pay you for. So and I had this conversation with somebody we both know that he was like, look, I should be getting paid more. And I was like, well, what's the average salary in this space? He's like, it's this. And I'm like, well, you're already above that. I'm like, so the industry is actually giving you more than you should have expected. And he's like, well, we should get paid more. And I'm like, I get that. I understand that. I feel like everybody should make $1 million, but the marketplace is not going to reward that. That's not how capitalism works with supply and demand. And that's the piece I always tell young people. I'm like, look, be passionate, be good at it, but it's also make sure it's something that can pay you well, that you're not just going to be struggling unless you're good with that. And you're like, hey, I'll live in a mobile home and that's the quality of life I want for me and my family. And so I love that, man. David, thank you so much for coming on the show. We'll have to do this again and really appreciate the wisdom and guidance you've provided us and our listeners.
Yeah, Chris, thanks for having me, man. It's a pleasure to talk to you. Good to see you again. I look forward to getting together soon.
Sounds great, man. We'll see you on down the road.
Yep. All right. Cool. Thanks, Chris.
Thanks for joining us this week on the Exceptional Companies Podcast. Make sure to subscribe to the show on iTunes, Spotify, YouTube, or via RSS so you'll never miss a show. While you're at it, if you found value in this show, we'd appreciate a rating on iTunes, or if you'd simply tell a friend about the show, that would help us out too. If you liked this show, please reach out through our website, www.excoadvisors.com, for free tools, to order a copy of Selling Main Street, or to sign up for our free webinar on how to sell your Main Street business.